a vehicle going over 100 miles per hour goes flying through the air, causing an explosion at the Rainbow Bridge checkpoint between Canada and New York in Niagara Falls.
I've never seen anything like this. The car just exploded. That is my car right there.
The gray one?
Yeah, the gray one. I just hope it doesn't spread.
All border crossings in Niagara region, Fort Erie, Rainbow, and the Queenston-Lewiston Bridge are all closed to traffic, coming and going to and from United States into Canada.
Now, many believe initially that this was an attack on the US.
According to high-level police sources, the explosion was an attempted terrorist attack. A lot of explosives in the vehicle at the time. The two people who were in the car are deceased. One Border Patrol officer was injured. Driving from the U.S. apparently to Canada.
As Fox reports that it was from the US into Canada, others reported that it was from Canada into the US.
I'm seeing all this stuff on the news that was inaccurate.
So we were walking up the road and we seen this car coming down towards the border, and he was flying over 100 miles an hour. There was a car in front of him. He swerved out, went in front of the car, hit the fence, went flying up into the air. He hit, I think there was an elevation part. He went up into the air and we just seen the fireball, and that's all we could see. It was just covered in smoke everywhere.
So now they're saying there were no explosives.
Now, we told you earlier that there was an explosion because there were explosives inside the car, and now authorities are apparently walking that back just a little bit, saying it's unclear if there were explosives or how many explosives.
And we can see now that this took place entirely in the US, just near the bridge to Canada. And surveying the damage, this may have just been caused by a large fire after a car crash. But that didn't stop the nearby airports and border crossings from shutting down. So how crazy was it if you just happened to live or work near Niagara Falls and still watch the garbage dinosaur media? In 1 hour, you went from thinking that there was an attack from the US into Canada by a car full of explosives, then it was actually people from Canada hitting the US near where the Thanksgiving parades were going to be, then airports and bridges start getting shut down by the authorities. Meanwhile, the witnesses that were on the scene are just trying to tell the media it was just a guy speeding, swerving around a car, and crashing into a building. There were no explosives, no foreign motives, and no acts of terror taking place. I honestly can't figure out why people say Twitter is such a bad source for news because of potential misinformation, when the corporate media is basically doing the same thing. I don't think people care if they get their info from a guy in a suit or some random meme account with an anime animal avatar, or even some Asian dude on YouTube that's voice doesn't match his face so much that it's actually starting to look like some old Japanese film with English poorly dubbed over. But what does our president Damon Shaw have to say to the American people during all of this? Apparently he's out of town, working a half day on a Wednesday. So people just thought New York was attacked from the north right after they were warned about this very thing.
A security alert suggesting an increasing terrorist threat to New York State raises the likelihood that violent extremist threat actors will seek to conduct attacks against targets in the West, with New York State being a focus.
While we're apparently most vulnerable.
The air marshals are still down on the border. We are not flying right now. We just received an email last week that the resources are depleted as far as our flying air marshals. So we are ushering in illegal immigrants on the border and leaving the traveling public unsafe.
I don't want to go too far off with the tinfoil hat theories, but there is a clear difference between a crisis and a plot. As with the holiday weekend, we were told to be extra alert because of an issue this administration got us into. But our best resources to protect ourselves are currently tied up because of a separate issue this administration got us into. And we've covered the problems regarding wide open borders on this channel extensively, but now even deep blue New Yorkers are starting to realize the crisis that Biden has created.
Free food giveaways, especially during the holidays, have become a source of tension between longtime New Yorkers struggling to get by and newly arrived migrants who are using the system to survive. A month ago, one altercation got so heated between a resident and a migrant, someone ended up in the hospital.
Now, with all the polls starting to go heavily in favor for Trump, I think it's just awfully coincidental that a new mysterious outbreak in China has just been discovered. Now, I would like to say, hopefully they can get this under control and keep everybody healthy, but at this point, I just don't trust anything surrounding these types of narratives, especially coming from the media that we just watched basically fabricate an entire story about an attack from Canada that was potentially just reckless drivers in America. But if you appreciated my concise, lighthearted commentary on the tragic status that is today's reality, hopefully I've earned your subscription, then go check out the video on how liberal activists in Atlanta are somehow marching behind a mosquito.